A mother begged me to send an ambulance for her dying child, but my supervisor wouldn't let me. 3 weeks into my job as a 911 operator, I got a call from a screaming mother, crying about her 3-year-old baby bleeding out, begging me to send the ambulance. I started transferring the call, but that's when my supervisor Jackson noticed the side of town this woman was calling from. Before I could dispatch, he rolled his chair behind me and entered his override code, locking me out of the system completely. We can't send units there right now. We need ambulances available for Fairfield Gardens where the donors live. There's a frat party happening there and their sons might get hurt. Her baby's bleeding out, I screamed, trying to type, but my keyboard wouldn't respond. I quickly realized the system was completely frozen and I couldn't contact anyone, all while the mother was begging through my headset. Babies bleed all the time, Jackson said loud enough for her to hear. Kid probably a scraped knee or something, but the senator's drunk son might crash his BMW at that party. That's what matters, Jackson said, pulling out his personal laptop where I could see him manually rerouting ambulances away from her address. I reached for the emergency phone to call dispatch directly, but he'd already unplugged it, holding the cord in his hand while saying 23 minutes. That's how long your console stays locked. For 23 minutes, I sat helpless watching supervisor control active flash on my frozen screen, while the single mother of two tried to save her 3-year-old son, who'd fallen through their apartment's broken window. Please, he's so cold, he won't open his eyes, she sobbed at minute 5. And all I could do was lie that help was coming while Jackson sat at his laptop, manually denying every dispatch request that auto-generated from her call, clicking reject over and over with the same finger he used to point at funny videos on his phone. By minute 8, Shania's voice had changed from screaming to whispering because she was using all her strength to apply pressure to the wound. I couldn't take it anymore and launched myself across the room to another workstation, but Jackson had locked them all remotely, tackling me when I tried to rip the cables from his laptop. We crashed into the desk, him pinning my arms while I screamed for someone to help. The other dispatchers actually looked away, all terrified of doing the right thing. The mother's Vietnam veteran neighbor came into her home at minute 12, immediately recognizing hemorrhagic shock. That's when I also broke free and went to sprint toward the emergency phone, but Jackson grabbed me back by my leg, both of us fighting on the floor while he typed one-handed, caller exaggerating, minor scrape. At minute 15, when Shania fainted and her 7-year-old daughter took the phone, I bit Jackson's hand hard enough to draw blood and lunged for his laptop, managing to type send before he slammed it shut on my fingers, crushing them against the keyboard while the little girl asked if her brother was going to heaven. I kicked him in the stomach, grabbed my cell phone, but he had a signal jammer in his drawer that he held up like a trophy while pinning me against the wall with his forearm across my throat, choking me just enough that I couldn't scream the address to my coworkers, all while the veteran performed chest compressions in my ear, counting out loud as the child went into cardiac arrest from blood loss. The second Jackson's administrative lock expired at exactly 23 minutes. I slammed every dispatch button on my console, sending 3 ambulances and a helicopter to that apartment while Jackson was still gloating about his perfect system. I looked up at the sky and started pleading with every deity out there to save this child. After 4 excruciating minutes, help finally arrived and rushed into the house immediately. The call was still going on, and I could hear major panicking going on. The medics walked over to the child, and I couldn't make out what they said, but one thing was clear. The mother dropped to her knees and started cry-screaming. I heard commotion before everyone finally left. I started calling and digging into the case like a madman, before finally finding out the truth. The child was gone, or at least the version his mother remembered was. He had lost so much blood he'd need multiple surgeries for internal damage. His prefrontal cortex was damaged, leaving him unable to speak, leaving his mother with bills she couldn't afford without selling their house, just as a cherry on top from the American healthcare system. I went to report Jackson immediately, but HR said I needed proof. That's how I learned the dispatch system auto-deletes supervisor overrides after 24 hours. Standard privacy protection. Jackson knew this, which is why he was so comfortable doing it. And when I checked, 5 other dispatchers quietly told me he'd done this before, always to addresses in poor neighborhoods. I sat in my car holding my phone, having secretly recorded Jackson admitting everything when he'd bragged to another supervisor at lunch, him laughing about how those people don't even have lawyers when I got his text. I know you recorded me, but I also know you used the emergency alert system without authorization when you sent those ambulances. That's immediate termination and loss of your certification. Your choice. Delete the recording or never work as a dispatcher again. You have until tomorrow morning. Full story on channel link below.